Well, we now arrive at the sacred finale, in which probably we can say that were expressed, if we speak in the old literary high language, all the aspirations of Robert Schumann about happiness, about stellar cavalry, on which he flies victoriously here all over the Holy Grail. Why I'm talking about this? And because there is a legend, unconfirmed by Schumann himself, that he borrowed the theme of the finale from a popular opera dedicated to the plot of Ivanhoe. I tend to doubt it. I tend to doubt it because I see that Schumann still uses theme of death, only does it in the retrograde. As we already know, this is a theme that was reversed. That is not only is it now in a major key, it is also in reverse. There is the same theme. If we leave it in the major, and here, it requires such a movement, probably, especially since Schumann that stays in a minor key when he has it is dynamic here and there all the time. I think that perhaps without stating it somewhere outright, he instead probably showed that he was thinking of this direction. But it is abundantly clear that his thoughts flowed in the direction of the Holy Grail, in the direction of the Crusaders. It was deeply instilled already from birth in him, from his youth. This chivalrous romantic thinking is present there. And as we know that the culmination of all stories to this day, all the wonderful knight's tales and fairy tales, in the quest for the Holy Grail. This is deeply in history of Christianity. Actually, no one even until knows what exactly is a Holy Grail, whether it's ball, whether it's crystal or wooden cup from which Jesus drank, which appears in the Last Supper, if I'm not mistaken. But probably everyone who will be interested in the motives of the Grail can again use the internet and Google on the Grail. But it is absolutely clear that there are knightly motives here. There is a knightly campaign here. And as we remember, Schumann wrote that he wants to show complete happiness, the victory of happiness over unhappiness, life over the death, the victory of good. And many talented writers and composers do. They often do this. This is kind of a template. The same thing we observed at Mussorgsky with his wonderful finale, where he also modified his theme. Only by letting it in reverse, in retrograde, but having slightly modified it. This is a favorite technique of composers. For example, Rachmaninoff deals only with this, that he turns the themes over, cuts them, and creates from them various new kinds of musical materials and artistic images. The same as he turned the topic of Paganini. Not only he did put it in the major key, a famous theme, he removed it, first in major, then turned it over and created our favorite variations. This is a favorite technique for almost all composers. The third concerto of Rachmaninoff generally built entirely on kalinka malinka, sliced like a sausage and turned upside down. And even though it's not necessary to look for any riddles in the theme of the third concerto, this is all from here. Moreover, he takes the inversion from even a minor part of the kalinka malinka solo There are the secrets of Sergei Vasilyevich. I should apologize, Sergei Vasilyevich, that I give out your secrets, because Sergei Vasilyevich did not tell anyone these secrets. By the way, it's all very simple. The composer is looking for the themes everywhere. As we collect mushrooms, so composers go looking for themes under their feet. And so they confuse us, composers. They will take, cut, turned upside down, and we already guess nothing. And in fact, it's all very simple and always sounds familiar and lovely. Just upside down threads, inverted sliced, put in different chains, with different creative artistic tasks. This is all very curious, but also the theme is a separate series, theme for separate series. I will not be particularly interested in the theme anymore because it is very exciting. Somehow we will look, for example, on the example of the Sergei Vasilyevich Rachmaninoff or Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, how they use the favorite Akhmatova's metaphor. If you knew from what rubbish poetry grows. Russians love these poems very much. And this is true. This is true. Only you can't even imagine out of what litter, because there may be completely indecent stories that composers use, which they will never tell us, never confess in their lives. Because firstly, they do not want to reveal their maps, and secondly, they are embarrassed. So back to our wonderful Schumann, who arranges such a celebration of the soul. Again, metaphysically, full of metaphysics and symbols. Here we see knights galloping, knights in all their robes, in armor, in all their luxury of medieval armor, with impenetrable shields, with spears, with sparkling helmets, with red feathers, golden spurs. You can imagine all this. It is so colorful. It's all in this music. And here's our very first statement is, of course, the appearance of knights. And of course, the equestrian. This is for sure being the equestrian gallop. The main theme, knight. Musicology attributes completely without understanding, wrong, the script of the work. That is something of a carnival. No, there is nothing from carnival here. Everything is completely different here. Everything is much higher. Everything is connected with a knightly symbolism, quite obvious. Now we will see it all. The next cries over the next motive, so you can see the first leitmotif, knightly. Further, the Nate keynote, the next keynote. The fanfares. This is a tune. This is a tune that calls knights to assemble. Then we have a piece from the minor part of the theme. Which was started up on the reverse, as a symbol of a difficult victory, but connected through a minor and through some losses. In the process of developing this finale, we will watch as Schumann plays with this minor, showing the difficulties of the path to happiness, the path to the Holy Grail, and the losses associated with this blood quest. The first submission ends. So what we have here, we will conditionally give names to all leitmotifs. Everyone can call for themselves in their own way, but the subject is clear to us. The content is clear to us. Therefore, we can calmly follow the development of events, giving us the most organic definitions of leitmotifs, as it's organic for us, for our imagination. Knight's leitmotif. Leitmotif of the gathering, leitmotif of the epic problems, bloody losses, culminating again in a knightly motive. And triumphant march. And further, the story of the campaign begins quite clearly stated, because we see just the cavalry. Moreover, such a cavalry, like business-like, business walking, that is not walking but started as a trot. This is not a fight, this is not a gallop, this is not something ostentatious. No, it's just, well, our knights are just sent for work. Amazing portrait. Already, well, just visually we see trotters. Well, the detachment, the squad of knights. And probably singing with a song. Here the theme of the knightly campaign ends. You know, I must say that the composers love horse trekking so much. This is one of the punchline of any composers, especially in the finale. They're all wrong with this, especially in the final. Sergei Vasilievich Rachmaninoff loved this here too. And if you remember him, and it's terribly interesting that every national consciousness has its own horses. And now I'll play you Russian horses, and you will see immediately and determine that they're Russians. Well, you don't need to go far. Sergei Vasiliev's final part of the third concerto begins with the same trip, a trot. Only Russian horses are completely obvious. March well. Russians. Yes, Cossacks, immediately already in a sight. Knightly thinking in Rachmaninoff's, knightly thinking in Schumann. Why do I say that? Because they're both riding. Rachmaninoff on horseback, as Schumann. His horses are quite dangerous. And this is all unfolds with whips, pretty scary. Now let's look, for example, on the horses of Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. Completely different consciousness. Here we have Pyotr Ilyich. He is sitting in this sleigh or in a stroller. And horses with the bells. He is not a knight, he is not an actor, he is our passenger. And Rachmaninoff on horseback is bursting into the battle. And Robert is also on horseback. You see how many horses are here? So the next theme is the next motif. I considerably call it leitmotif of the old knight. The keeper of the grail. Because here we see a noble melody that becomes quite thin. Because the bass becomes repeating on the one note with one voice and remains only the nobility of the subject. Therefore, it is through the eyes of an old knight, no longer covered with muscles and armor. So here is a certain wisdom of age in this leitmotif. Therefore, I call this leitmotif the old knight. You can call for yourself completely different, of course, but it's all here. Keeper of the Grail. Incredibly noble music, wise and quite restrained. From the next leitmotif, it fits very well because the next leitmotif is quite obviously the leitmotif of the oath, swearing. And again, there is an equestrian in the top register, a horse gallop. Therefore, we're already referring this again to our order of knights, knights of good, metaphysical knights, of course. And the theme is obviously speak about the oath again. Nothing else could it be. And the oath that immediately interrupts by the following, the trumpet. mobilizing trumpet. Incredibly tempting, polyphonically done. With a certain charm and grace, but chivalrous. Maybe here the lady throws a flower to the knight. There is all this in this music. And here is just humor. And the passage that symbolizes the transition to a gallop. And the gallop is immediately replaced by the theme of the battle. So look at how the thought process works. Mobilization. The participation of the ladies. The answer was knightly. Divided into dialogue. The transition to a gallop. And yet the transition to a gallop immediately goes into the action, what's called military affairs. And we hear a leap on each other, waves of horsemen, and in the bass rumble, guns. Cannonballs are flying around, so nothing else could it be. There is hardly a salute in honor of the knights, I think, because the guns can rumble either in battle or in funeral or as a salute and fireworks. As I think that is, in this point, fireworks did not reach yet, because this is no victory yet, there is only struggle. Nobody thinks about the funeral, therefore remains only military affairs. So, here are the guns. Schumann often portrays such guns. He always blows cannons in the carnivals. We see everywhere, throughout all his work, all carnivals, all the way his guns are trashed. And by the way, about the guns, it's also different by everyone, but we will not be distracted. Waves of the horsemen roll on each other. Fight going to ecstasy, and the topic of losses appears. Here, even the ardor is reduced, the passion is reduced. Here, the theme of the fallen knights, fallen heroes, and it comes from the theme of the fallen hero from the beginning of the theme. The concept is continuous. In the middle of the battle, it suddenly comes to the minor heroically, and the theme begins to speak about the fallen heroes. Brilliant artist, genius, artist, a painter. It's difficult to find a name to assign to such artistic thinking. This is just something to which you can really fall on your knees. And the minor theme is immediately followed by the theme of mobilization. And the victory trumpet. This ends in cadenza when the piano breaks into pieces. Here we need a stadium and electronic equipment. Here, no loudness is enough for us, because Schumann here listens and speaks to us from space. Even modern instruments, all of them, including the largest orchestras, rock guitars, synthesizer, are not enough to express this cosmic ecstasy which Schumann conveys to us in music. So, assembling. Mobilization. The leitmotif of victory. The leitmotif of the ecstasy of victory. Replaced by the main theme of the knights. Then all the topics will not pass away. Instead, they all repeat. Only he shifts all the themes of one step lower. That is all the same themes pass. If we have them, say, in E flat minor, the subject of the oath. Now it goes in D flat minor. You should not repeat it all, because there's all the same themes. He repeats twice, but they're all so beautiful that I would like Schumann to repeat them endlessly. When I work on this ending finale, I always work again, like a broken record, because I feel sorry for parting with this endless holiday. Moreover, it all sounds differently every time, everything starts to play with the new colors, because it's life. This is a completely infinite music in its depth. Doing all the same themes, we have the theme of the knights, which are replaced by the theme of the epic story. Our horses also appears. In other register, also shifted one tone lower, but high up in the register, so they're even more charming here in closing two chord. The theme of the campaign sounds in the reprise. Theme of mobilization. Well, I cannot resist here so as not to reach into our present days and not to remind you of Indiana Jones. Because it's the same plot. The theme of mobilization, of course, has also become a musical meme, symbol. Remember the leitmotif of Indiana Jones? Well, it's all from here, it's all there. I think that John Williams, while creating music for Indiana Jones, of course, did not think about Schumann, the Symphonic Etudes especially, but maybe, I didn't know, they all have a conservatory education. One way or another, in the minds of all Hollywood composers, it all plays constantly. It's because it's part of their consciousness. But all this introduced into the nightly use of musical memes, symbols, this is all done by Schumann. That is before that. Of course, we have it all historically developed. We recall fanfares of Handel, Mozart, Bach, or Haydn. We all find with Italian composers as well. But having turned it into the symbolism of the already modern thinking, having reincarnated it all and having given a stadium aesthetic, this is a completely different merit, historical, not understood until now. But now we will all experience it together, understand and be grateful to Schumann for having enriched our life to such an extent. So, the theme of mobilization, yes, it coincides with the thousands. Remember the French film about the Three Musketeers? All the themes of mobilization, all nights, they're all taken from here, including Indiana Jones. And so on. I will not clutter your brains. So, the theme of odds. By the way, when Indiana Jones in a difficult situation is suddenly he pulled out this very scourge with which he strikes all his rivals. The symbol is always there. From weakness to enormous strength. The same way, a musical symbol gives rise to the mobilization force of a person. Again, we have all the steps. Gallop. Guns are firing. The last topic of mobilization. And fanfare of victory. Musketeer final. And the last fanfare. The last time the trumpet calls, the last time epic memories, and we go out, take off into eternal light, and in the major. The guns are still firing cannon, but only now there's already victory cannons. Guns are firing all the keys. And the traditional cadenza in the finale. Up to infinity he can repeat this alternation. We will never get tired of such a crazy finale. This can be repeated to infinity. The triumph of light in D-flat major is one of the brightest key, one of the very bright. One of the happiest tonality. These are the holy horses of Schumann. Well, I do not want to say goodbye to this work. I do not want to say goodbye to you, my dear friends. And we will return to the concert halls with this work, which will sound differently all the time than today's presentation, and with which I want you to leave from you now. Goodbye.